Hi folks, and welcome to another video. This time I'm doing another request video. This time I am going to be doing one on the GWR locomotive number 6858, and for those of you who know your stuff will know that it is the Woolston Grange. So ask any rail enthusiast in the West Riding area what the most unusual locomotive ever to appear in the area was. You will be hard pressed to find that they wouldn't say it was the 6858 Woolston Grange when it called at Penistone on its way to Huddersfield in 1964. A Great Western Railway locomotive reaching Sheffield, Victoria was unprecedented in itself. Then not to be detached from its train and instead continue on to Penistone under the wires, then to Huddersfield via the L&Y line, was something that could never happen, but it did on the 15th of August 1964. This was recorded in the Railway Observer, and it says the greatest highlight for many years occurred on the 15th of August when 6858 Woolston Grange arrived on the 0855 Bournemouth Leeds, being replaced by 45048 for the remainder of the journey. 6858 distinguished itself by making a lightning run between Penistone and Huddersfield in 18 minutes instead of the 24 minutes allowed, and striking the edge of the wooden platform at Denby Dale with the left-hand cylinder as it passed through. Its subsequent stay at Hillhouse shed was surrounded by what can best be described as a strict security cordon. On one occasion, the railway police had been required to disperse what would be sightseers. 6858 departed for Oxley at 0050 on the 26th of August, running via Micklehurst, Edgeley and Crewe, speed being restricted to 35 miles per hour and travelling under bell code 261, otherwise known as out of gauge load. The summer of 1964 was the last in which the West Riding summer Saturday trains to Bournemouth and beyond were routed via Sheffield, Victoria, and then the Great Central route to Nottingham. 6858 Woolston Grange, bringing the era to a spectacular climax. In 1964, two trains were timetabled in both directions, and the details of this are shown on the screen to save me from reading them out. So a little bit about the history of the Grange locomotives. The GWR locomotive standardisation policy pursued by George Jackson Churchwood envisaged a range of locomotive classes which would be suitable for a majority of duties and yet could share a small number of standard components. Amongst the designs suggested in 1901 was the 460, with 5-foot 8-inch diameter driving wheels and the standard number 1 boiler. Although planned in 1901, none were built during Churchwood's lifetime. G.B. Collar, Churchwood's successor at Swindon Works, rather introduced the Hall class with 6-foot diameter driving wheels. The 4300 class of 260 tender locomotives had been introduced on the GWR for mixed traffic duties in 1911, and by 1932 there were 342 in service. However, by the mid-1930s some of the earlier examples were in need of attention, and the class as a whole was struggling with some of the duties expected of them. Collett therefore revived the Churchwood proposal but modified the design to include a cab and controls to the current style. Between 1936 and 1939, 100 Class 4300 class were taken out of service and replaced by the new 460 locomotives, 80 of which were of the Class 6800 or Grange, whilst the remaining 20 were the 7800 or Manor class. It had been intended to replace all of the 4300 class in this way, but the Second World War stopped the programme. The Granges were effectively a smaller wheel version of the Hall class. The wheels, valve motion and tenders were taken from the withdrawn engines, reconditioned and then used in the construction of the 100 new locomotives. The components from one old locomotive were spread amongst more than one of the new engines. The cylinders of the Granges were of the same size as those used on the 4300 class, but the old cylinders could not be reused because the cylinders and valves shared a common casting, and the new design called for the separation between cylinder and valve centre lines to be increased by 2.5 inches. This was done in order to make the cylinders level with the axles, but still allow the use of the old valve motion parts. The locomotives themselves were built in 2 batches to a single order. Lot number 308, which was number 6800 to 6859, and these were built between August 1936 and December 1937. Numbers 6860 and 6879 appeared between February and May 1939. They were all named after Granges in the area covered by the GWR. Further construction of the class was cancelled due to the outbreak of the war. They were originally fitted with Churchwood 3,500 imp gallon 16,000 litre or 4,200 US gal tenders taken from withdrawn members of the 4300 class. However, after the Second World War, several were fitted with newer 3,500 imperial gallons and 4,000 imperial gallons types. Hope you got that. Although built to a 30-year-old design, in service they provided to be reliable. With their power and mixed traffic characteristics, they could handle most duties of the network. Their smaller driving wheels gave them the high attractive effort than the Hall class. They were often used for the haulage of perishable goods such as fruit and broccoli, and for excursion trains. However, their axle loading prevented their use on some cross-country routes previously operated by the 4300 class. As a result, a lighter version in the form of the Manor class was introduced for these duties. The entire class was withdrawn from service between 1960 and 1965, and no examples were preserved. However, GWR 6880 Betton Grange, the new Grange that was due to be built originally, was constructed between approximately 1998 and 2024 at the Llangollen Railway and Tyseley Locomotive Works. Got that out eventually. And there ends the video on the Woolston Grange and the Grange class. I just thought I would include the details of the Grange class in case people were interested in that as well. So there we go. There's another request done. If you would like me to do any videos, then please do send me a request in the comments and I'll do my best to research and produce a video for you. So until the next video, please do take care of yourselves. Please like, please